Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett will be the main event at UFC 324 for the interim lightweight title, and it's an absolute joke. So 324 is going to be the first numbered event that's going to take place on the new Paramount deal. So there's no more pay-per-views. They needed a title to main event the first card, and that's why it's for an interim title. The fight should just be a number one contenders fight, but they needed the belt there to put it at the main event. Ilia Topuria said he won't fight in early 2026 because of personal matters, so they can justify the interim belt. The problem is that Dana White has confirmed that the winner of Gaethje versus Pimblett will be fighting Ilia when he returns. So where does that leave Arman Tsarukyan? Listen, let me address the fact that he pulled out of the Makhachev fight. I was just as upset as anybody else. I can't even imagine what some of these matchmakers felt like after that happened. We missed out on seeing an Arman versus Makhachev rematch, and instead we got Moicano getting a title shot. I was just as upset as anybody else. So he shouldn't get an immediate rebooking for a title shot. And he didn't get an immediate shot. He fought Dan Hooker and dominated him. He also said that he would be ready to fight in January for the title if that's what they asked. So okay, Topuria can't fight yet, fine. But then why is Arman not fighting for the interim title? Why is it not Arman versus either Gaethje or Paddy? This makes no sense. You don't have to like Arman, but you have to admit that this makes no sense. Just think about this. If Ilia comes back in the middle of 2026, so maybe the White House card, to fight the winner of Gaethje versus Paddy, then Arman might not even get a title shot until 2027. He is so clearly the number one contender that this shouldn't even be a discussion. He's also not a boring fighter either. He's entertaining, so don't use that as the reason to justify, because that has to be the only reason, right? They think Paddy versus Gaethje is going to be some crazy fight, which it will be, but that's why they wanted to headline the first numbered Paramount event. It's just that the interim title genuinely isn't going to mean much to a lot of people because everybody's going to know that this was not the right fight to make. So let's take a look at the lightweight rankings. What fight even makes sense for Arman next? I mean, if he fights for the title next, like I said earlier, it's probably not going to be until 2027. So he's not just going to sit out another year, at least I hope not. So who does he fight next? He's ranked number 1 right now. Oliveira and Holloway are ranked 2 and 3, and he already beat Oliveira. Also, Max and Charles are probably going to fight each other for the BMF title next. So that's off the table. Gaethje and Paddy are fighting each other. He just beat Hooker. He does have a loss to Gamrot, but Gamrot is 1 and 2 in his last 3 with losses against Hooker and Oliveira. He doesn't deserve to fight the number 1 ranked lightweight. Fighting Charles Oliveira was his opportunity. And then you just look at the guys after that. Who does he fight? Benoit Saint-Denis? Fiziev? None of these matchups make sense for Arman. So I guess he just has to wait for the result of some of the fights, but then it might make even less sense. Let's say he fights the loser of Paddy versus Gaethje because the winner is obviously fighting Ilia. Well, if Gaethje loses, then does he even fight again? Would a loss to Paddy be Gaethje's retirement? Now let's take a look at Max versus Oliveira. If Max wins and Arman fights Oliveira again, I mean, what sense would that make? So I guess just looking at the layout of the fights that are happening, the thing that would make the most sense for him is if Max were to win. Assuming Max versus Oliveira is around the same time as Paddy versus Gaethje, then they could do Topuria versus the winner of Paddy versus Gaethje and Arman versus Holloway on the same card. Now that is something that I would be excited for. Having 4 of these guys on the same card sounds good, but it doesn't change the fact that this was not the right fight to make. It just wasn't. Pimblett's last 3 wins are Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, and Bobby Green. For him to get the interim title before a guy like Tsarukyan, it's not right. It seems like the UFC wants Paddy to become the next superstar, and this is especially confirmed if what Arman is saying is true. He said that the UFC's original plan was to make Topuria versus Paddy in January. I mean, Arman is right there. If Topuria can't fight, then how is he not involved in the interim title fight? He should be guaranteed to be in that spot. The question should be, does he fight Paddy or Gaethje? That should be the question. I also think this just sets up a horrible example. Anytime an undeserved title shot happens, people can point to matchups like this and say, oh, if Paddy and Gaethje can get this chance, then why can't this guy? It's gonna happen. Dana White talks a lot about this is in boxing and the best fight the best. I think people are really starting to question that lately. It doesn't feel like that anymore. Matchups that are so obvious just don't get made.